Okay, so this is a really rough and ready thing, ideas, stream of consciousness about why Twitter maybe doesn't suck. Now, first off, we have to start off with the idea of what is Twitter. Now, I know that everyone perceives it as 147 characters, and most of us see it really as an exercise in global narcissism, where everybody thinks that everything they do, what they're doing right now, is really important to that. It may actually be more than that. In fact, that may not be relevant at all. What it might be is a completely new way that we interact with information and access information over the web that will completely change the way we do everything. This is just an idea. Feel free to reject it, but just listen for the next few minutes. So most people see it as microblogging. That's where the idea came from. We had blogs, and now we have these are shorter, they're therefore microblogs. And that sort of explains really why most of it's irrelevant. Because it's just like talking. Most conversations, you ever sat in a restaurant and listened to what people talk about? Nothing. But just because most conversations are relevant doesn't make talking useless. In fact, some of the best way to get information in the world is just to talk to people. But I've got a different view of Twitter. What Twitter really is micro-filtering if you choose to use it that way. See, the content of the web is so vast that we've started to develop coping mechanisms. Primarily, this is that we go to the same sites over and over and over again. And always get our sources then. We start our day, we go through them, we do them exactly the same way. See, the trouble is this is a little bit like having sex when you're married. It's very good, but after a while, it's sort of a bit samey. Occasionally, we'll venture out on the wild side and use Google, but then it's Google's view of what's important to us. And even that, it's all sort of linear. See, once you start to see Twitter for micro-filtering, not micro-blogging, it changes the way you relate to information coming to you. You're suddenly exposed to a whole new world of content that you previously would have just passed you by. Let me give you an example. If you can find people who are great to follow, an example that I would use is Paul Krugman. Paul Krugman writes for the New York Times. Pretty much my subscription to the New York Times was also I could read Paul Krugman's article. Every day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, when he wrote, I would read him straight away. Now I follow him on Twitter, and I actually find out that he writes about 5 or 6 pieces a day on his blog. And they would have just passed me by in the busyness of my day. Now they're delivered to me on Twitter, and I can open them up and look at them and find out all of this content that would just otherwise have passed me around by. So you see, once you start to see this as filters of information, things that you are passionate about, things that you're interested about, and not all the other parts that you don't care about, then you can find people with great information and great access to other people's information who are tweeting it through, usually through the bit.ly links, that have much deeper content. It's not 147 characters, it's what 147 characters links you to. And so if you can take all of this and find, I have 66 people that I follow. And these 66 people, I've effectively, through a product called TweetDeck, which allows you to divide it up into different categories, filtered upon ideas. I have one for real estate, one for business, one for environmentalism, one for my local community in Boulder here that I live in, that enables me to tap into all of the stream of information that's coming in from Boulder, restaurant openings, wine pairings, things like that that I would otherwise have only found out had gone on after the fact. Then these are all divided up using TweetDeck, and they're just delivered to me all the time, giving me the ability to filter out the information that I want and suddenly get access to content that would just never would have seen. You see, what Twitter then becomes is it becomes something that goes out into the real world and with very clearly defined parameters brings the stuff that's interesting to me, which is pretty radical if you think about it. So forget about blogging, forget about what you say, think about what you hear. So the important thing is how you find out who to follow. So here's a very simple way to do it, and it's all a little bit trial and error. Start with the people that you like. Start with people like Krugman or whoever you already read. See if they're active on Twitter. If they are, follow them. Doesn't mean they'll be any good at Twitter. They might be blogging about, tweeting about irrelevant stuff, in which case turn them off. But if you're finding that you're getting good content on them, go and look at their profile on Twitter and see who they're following. What are their sources of information? It's very interesting and very viral. You can try somebody, just click on their Twitter name. You can look at their last 10, 15 posts and figure out, is that something that's interesting to me? And if it is, add it in, put it in under your filters, and when you're ready and looking for think, hey, I want to look at some sports news right now, boom, all the sports news that you care about is right there. Hey, I wonder what's going on in my local community right now, boom, all of the things in your local community are right there. This is trial and error. Most of the time, and most of the reason are just people are blabbering on with irrelevant crap. The great thing is, click unfollow, they're gone. So, hopefully this gives you a very short idea of how using a simple Twitter account, not to blog, but to filter inbound information, following the right people, and dividing them up into categories using TweetDeck, that you can suddenly access to a whole range of information, expand your world of choices of the things that you're listening to, all using a product that really most people think is just all about narcissism. Thanks.